made it to 2020. Greetings, my name is Michael Miller. This is a Michael Miller trademark training video out to you because you're watching. Thank you and welcome. It's meant for Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliates, licensed presenters, the Core New Core, my patrons, and anyone interested in surviving and thriving as a Pilates instructor or a student. Which is important to know in terms of where am I coming from, and it's about all those group names, but anyone and everyone that's interested in surviving and thriving as a Pilates instructor. I made an ending to my live recordings last year with the intent on stopping that and trying to turn to something else that would help pay my way, which I need. Patreon.com, Patreon.com. $1 a month is not much of a statement that you're willing to say, well, for $12, I'll support you. Okay, but, you know, to the extent you appreciate what I'm offering for value, so I tried coming back. 2020. I made recordings that weren't live, and those fell flat on their face on an emotional satisfaction level, because making the recording is one thing, but getting it out there and to anyone that's interested and having it recorded on a platform that will deliver it just totally outweighs whatever advantages you have in not giving it away or at least broadcasting it live. So, 2020. In that time frame, I went out into 2020 looking to get out of my cave and try to sell my books, my picture books on Reformer and Cadillac, which are just the pictures from my website that have been out there for decades and as such represent a global standard of their own. If you're a Pilates file, you may want those. In any event, I went to one place and met someone I'll call Anna and got to show off my picture books, and went to another place that didn't have anybody in it, but from the web had the owner as someone who had a pretty broad spectrum of it, pretty broad. I'd say at least it wasn't a singular exposure in the Pilates world, though still narrow enough, or depending upon how you look at things. Okay. So, in terms of structure and routine, the routine I've been on for the last 1,292 days is that on weekdays I do the intermediate reformer every day, and on weekdays I come to make live broadcast. In coming back to the live broadcast, I bring with me a simulation in my mind of two individuals in the Pilates culture. One that's very new and enthusiastic and as passionate as someone, I'm sure, who's been at it a while, but also learned from more sources or has more experience than the relatively new student or new teacher, if they're already a teacher. So weird. There are only times when this thorn seems to show up in my palm. That sounds so weird. But I mean, just, there you go, literally and figuratively. And I use this as a pointy-ended thing. What is that? I call it a plumb bob. What does it represent? Gravity. What does it also represent? Alignment, right? Out of 5, number 4 is, oh, I guess I see what I'm going there, is that both Anna and Kate have different degrees of knowledge in Pilates, but their knowledge is of the same type, the same kind, which is knowledge based in folklore, meaning word of mouth, okay, which is much of, or the whole Pilates culture. Not quite the whole, but, right, because there's you and me and a few others that are able to also recognize knowledge about a point of view of Pilates that explains it just based on 3 things in Joe's book. And so when you're a Michael Miller Pilates presenter, it's these 3 things that you go over to get to explaining core new tension, which this is symbolic of, which is oppositional rotation between axes in the body. And it's those 3 things from this book that gets you to the MMP point of view, which is an ideal point of view based on a theory using these 3 things as the evidence that the theory is constructed with. That's the evidence to get to an ideal definition of Pilates that comes out of Joe's book, From Me to You, is uniform eccentric loading flowing through progressive patterns of movement. So my number 4 title of CT knowledge and MMP knowledge is to make a further distinction in what you know and how you know it. Okay. I point to CT knowledge and leave the obvious sensation to be had be enough evidence for acceptance of the fact of the matter in core new tension existing. My argument comes with an experience, a sensation, and by making tension between endpoints, you can experience alignment. And it's by making tension between endpoints in your body that you're able to line up in space, in gravity, so that you don't incur any more stress than you have to as you act like a fish, meaning made of water, trying to swim through an ocean made of air. So, folklore is knowledge by word of mouth. Theory is knowledge by explanation. In my case of what I broadcast and seem so content to just focusing on is the knowledge of core new tension and the point of view of Michael Miller-Pilates. Just one point of view out of yours, mine, and everyone else's. What matters about core new tension is that it's knowledge about biomechanics. It's knowledge about how the body engages itself to move through space. Michael Miller-Pilates is just one point of view of Pilates. Within that point of view, it says that Pilates is an experience, and it explains, it defines that experience as complete coordination of body, mind, and spirit. Within the MMP point of view, body, mind, and spirit is being, thinking, and observing. And observing is at the heart of the matter because that happens outside of the realm of thinking within the MMP point of view. You have your body, your being, you have your mind, your thinking, which is prefrontal cortex, and you have your observing in the amygdala and hippocampal areas of the brain that connects you to what is out there beyond us. So that's why number 5 is, in Pilates, thinking is not enough. I mean, when you really get to it, beyond just all of the thinking of Pilates that one wants to just think about and explain it as, in MMP, experience is key because it's the essence of what it is. It's arrived at ideally and recognizes the individual's capacities in their being, thinking, and observing. And so thinking is not enough. Observing is one of the 3 capabilities, I usually call it capacities, in the individual that as a student I'm trying to coordinate in myself, and in students that I have, I'm trying to help them coordinate for themselves. Their body, their thinking, and their observing. They're listening. They're observing. Their participation in what they're sensing. And from that, making a discernment that allows you to make a choice to have more control. So, sort of off the wall, but I'll leave you with this comment from Steve McQueen from his movie called Le Mans, which is about car racing. Now I gotta find it. I'm sorry. That was right at the beginning of. So all these notes, I had too many notes. So Steve says, "Race in the movie." It's a quote out of the movie. Racing is life. Anything that happens before or after is just waiting. So racing is life. Anything that happens before or after is just waiting. Now, waiting for what? See? for whatever else there is to it that I'm not paying attention to or ignoring or overlooking. The part about it necessarily being something you're involved in and that you have to respond to in the moment, right, is my point or my comparison. Because Pilates is like life. Pilates is life. Anything that happens before or after is just waiting. And see, the great thing about doing Pilates, for me, is that I can find myself in the moment, responding to and reacting to my sensations in the moment. Now, I'm not risking my life, and I'm not competing against other people for time frames and machines and all of that, but I am finding what I consider to be that experience of being present in the moment and responding to your environment. Now, in race car driving, it's much more life and death, but the good part about Pilates is that you can reach for the experience without risking your life. Because life can't live forever. Read between the lines and see behind the curtain. Add two and two. After you evaluate perspectives, direct your thinking, direct your thinking, direct your thinking. You know, in the time that I've been away, so many times I find myself on a non-directed course of thought, thinking and realizing that I would be much better to either think about nothing or to direct the thinking towards something. Set your sails. Geist.